I am opening the Committee of Conference on House Bill 1466. This is the off-label, relative to the off-label use of prescription drugs and relative to pharmacy prescriptions. In the Senate, there was work done to make sure that there's a little bit more understanding of what's going on. The language included a form created by the Board of Medicine or the Board of Nursing to be approved. There's a question about how much time and effort that would take for the Board of Medicine, and also making sure that we are referencing other uses of off-label medicine. So we have a proposed amendment that takes most of the words that we had already approved in both of the committees and adds a little bit more detail to flesh it out and get more to the point and provide more protection. So the way that it would read would be: the state of New Hampshire confirms its strong support for shared decision-making between healthcare professionals and their patients. A licensee may lawfully prescribe an FDA-approved drug product for an off-label indication and to be held to the same standard of care as when prescribing for an on-label indication when A, off-label use of the drug product for this indication has longstanding common use. This is really important because 70% of prescriptions, I've seen a number as high as 70% of prescriptions are off-label. And this protects the routine practice where the doctor may not even know that there's an that whether or not that indication has been approved for that drug. So when that's the case, keep practicing as you do. B is when there is medical evidence to support this use and no known evidence contraindicating such use, including but not limited to peer-reviewed studies and practice guidelines from relevant medical societies. We had the word sound scientific evidence, sound scientific medical evidence. And the question was raised by several people: who determines what's sound? Peer-reviewed publications and medical society guidelines are sound. So if we can point to those and there's no concerns that would be widely known about that indication and that drug, it should be routine use as well that doesn't need any particular documentation. Now we move to that area where it hasn't been adopted by societies, or there's not a large body of evidence in the peer-reviewed papers. This is that area where we may have one like our colleague from Walpole, who was able to have her husband benefit from innovative therapeutics for his cancer, where he was one of the first people treated. There was no body of evidence at that point. There was no data. There was a hope that it might help him, and it did. And we want to make sure that people here in New Hampshire are able to benefit from that so long as they and their doctor know what is going on. So that brings us to those core principles of informed consent that are laid out in the American Medical Association, their medical code of ethics opinion on informed consent, which requires that you present relevant information accurately and sensitively in keeping with the patient's preferences for receiving medical information. The physician should include information about the burdens, risks, and expected benefits of all options, including foregoing treatment. We're fortunate to have a pharmacist on this committee of conference with us, and there's been some improvements made since this was drafted at OLS. Thanks to Representative Merchant, he's recognized that we need to have a form that can be faxed to the pharmacist, so the pharmacist knows that this informed consent has happened. This would be changing section C to read: the licensee has provided, and the patient, or if the patient is a minor, the patient's parent or guardian has signed an informed consent form that includes the known potential benefits, known potential risks, alternative treatment options, expected prognosis without treatment, and a disclosure that a prescription is for an off-label indication. The signed informed consent form shall remain a part of the patient's medical record. I think with that and with these changes, we have a pretty comprehensive look, and I'd like to look to Senator Sherman for his input.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This has, I talked to the Board of Medicine today, and we also reached Lindsay Courtney to just confirm that they're okay with this, and I spoke with them directly, and they are fine with it. It really does capture their concerns about the bill that were there before. I just wanted to make sure that we are recognizing that C will be modified at the 3 spots, not just the one dealing with physicians, but it will be modified lines 13 through 16, lines 28 through 31, and there, yes, lines 11 through 14 on page 2, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Fortunately, it's the same language
It's
throughout,
all the
which
same.
helps.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're not just amending that one section. So that's all I'm in support.
Can we read again Representative Merchant's language, because I think the way it's written here, it doesn't include everything that you said. And do it slowly so that my penmanship can keep up with you.
Thank you. That's why I opened us just a few moments later than we had. It would read, the licensee has provided, and the patient, or if the patient is a minor,
Yeah, got it.
the patient's parent or guardian. That's why I went to another piece of paper. It's a lot of words.
Yeah,
Has signed an informed consent form
yep,
that includes,
yeah,
and that goes to the language there,
yep,
the known
yep.
potential benefits.
okay.
And then the rest is what was on Representative Merchant's amendment to the amendment.
All right.
Okay.
I want to read this again out loud. The licensee has provided, and the patient, or if the patient is a minor, and the patient's parent or guardian has signed an informed consent form that includes the known potential benefits, known potential risks, alternative treatment options, expected prognosis without treatment, and a disclosure that the prescription is for an off-label indication. Then the addition of the sentence, the signed informed consent form shall remain part of the medical record.
Of the patient's medical record. That's the PT there. Yes.
Shall remain part of the patient's. That wasn't in there either.
It's right there. It's that PT.
Oh, yeah. You doctors and pharmacists, you're
It's
just
written
too
in
smart.
pharmacist.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can I ask one question? John, good to go with this from the department?
Representative Leon, if I could respond to Senator Bradley's question.
Yes,
For the
please.
record, John Williams, Director of Legislative Affairs. The department is fine with this. We did recognize that the primary principal agencies involved was the Office of Professional Licensure and Certification and the Board of Medicine. And we appreciate the earnest effort made by the conferee chair for the House to reaching out to the various parties, and we are fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paula, you good to go? You've talked to Lindsay and the Board of Medicine? All right, I'd move that the Senate accede to the amendment. Normally, I would say that we should come back and review this. I don't think it's necessary in this case, so the sooner it gets done, in case there's a lot of moving parts here in my penmanship. It should all be good. I don't think we need to come back.
Thank you. We'll make sure that we have this language. If we have anything, we have the tape, and we'll make sure that this is done quickly so that we can all sign off. And if there's a problem, fix that. Thank you. What does the House agree to this amendment? Yes. 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 Then if the Senate agrees, then we have this amendment. It'll be drafted and we can sign off, and I will close the committee of conference for House Bill 1466. I call the Committee of Conference on House Bill 1487 to order. This is relative to procedure for withdrawal from the vaccine registry. This bill allows a notarized form to be used instead of going to the healthcare provider in order to withdraw from the vaccine registry. The Senate had been concerned about the differentiation between parents and children, and actually came up with some beautiful language that addresses the challenges that we're facing in the current healthcare shortage. The Senate said that the form shall require the signature of a healthcare provider. And I think that we believe that that's something that should apply both to children and adults, and that children and adults should also be able to have a notarized form signed by either the patient or the patient's parent and guardian if they are a minor. Of course, there are some consequences to taking responsibility for your own data and your own health, which is what anybody who is choosing to withdraw from the registry does. If you withdraw from the registry and you show up in the emergency room, they're not just going to be able to call up your vaccination record and say that you've been immunized against measles or that you've been immunized against COVID. And so you may be treated in such a way as somebody who hasn't been immunized, and there'll be different diagnostic workups that you go through, and you might be in a bubble room as well. We have an amendment that allows a form to be notarized or by a healthcare provider, which means that you don't need to be your healthcare provider, which is great in this day and age when too many are retiring or other changes in practice mean that you're no longer with your existing healthcare provider. We also have some language that addresses some concerns from the department. The form is created by the department, and that's done in the rules process. So when we add the language, the form provided by the department shall include information and consequences, that the responsibility to maintain vaccination records becomes the responsibility of the patient or the patient's parent or guardian if a minor. We give them that ability to put that information in that form. I think we all believe that that's very important, because when you take responsibility, you need to understand what that responsibility is. Just like some of our parents may have had a vaccination card when we were enrolling in school and they had to show that every time you went to camp. If you choose not to be in the registry, that's probably what things are going to look like for you. But if you don't want to be in the registry, that's a burden you're willing to bear. So I guess we'll see if there's any questions here, and then we can have the department share specifically what consequences they think that people need to be aware of as well.
Representative Leon, Madam Chair, so you're offering Amendment 2028?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah, and with the and you amended that with some further language.
Yes.
And that's what we're looking at right now.
Yes, we are looking at Amendment 2028H, which is a draft Committee of Conference amendment, and then additional language has been distributed here in the room. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And if I may, John, we're all set? Yeah. All right. So, want me to just listen?
Representative Merchant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to the language, if you look at House Bill 1487, the one created by the researcher, the clerk right now, I would propose a slight modification to it. Should read, the form provided by the department shall include information and consequences of withdrawing from the registry, and that the responsibility to maintain vaccination records becomes the responsibility of the patient or the patient's parent or guardian if a minor.
I think that's much clearer, and it defines what consequences are, which was my problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody need to hear anything else, or are you ready to agree as the House? Does the House agree to this language?
Yes. Yes.
You agree? Okay, the House agrees to this language. Microphone, please, so we can hear.
Everybody's telling me what to do these days. The Senate accedes to the House with the changes.
Thank you. Then would it be correct for me to close this committee? Then I close this Committee of Conference. Thank you all very much.